Welcome to the Michiana Hivecast, where wellness meets community and conscious living takes flight. I'm your host, Jamila Blue, and I am so glad you are here. This is your space to expand, evolve, and grow together. Each episode, we celebrate the heart of Michiana through real conversations with local practitioners, healers, creatives, and community builders who are lighting the way towards connection, balance, and transformation. Whether you're just beginning your journey or deep in your practice, you'll find inspiration, insight, and a sense of belonging right here in the Hive. At Conscious Michiana, we are all about uniting people, sharing resources, and co-creating a thriving, holistic community. So let's get buzzing, and thank you for being a part of this conscious collective. The Michiana Hivecast, buzzing with wellness, connection, and conscious living in Michiana. Expand, evolve, grow.
So thank you for joining me, Eve, on sharing your journey through how this has evolved for you.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
So let's just start from the very beginning. Can you first just share when you first learned about your diagnosis?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was never a person to go to the doctor for anything. And I had a friend that was also my boss. I was just like telling her some of these weird things I had noticed on my body, and she's like, you're not allowed to come to work until you go get that checked out." And I'm like, whatever, whatever. And so I went to a doctor, which I had to find one because I didn't even have one. Find a doctor that was willing to take me. And I found one randomly that had an appointment. I went into the doctor and I could tell things were serious right away because he's like, "Oh, we need to get this tested right away." Like there was no waiting. He's like, "I'll call. You need to go over right now." I was like, "Oh." And because I had such little experience with uh, anything medical, I was like, "Oh, this must be how this always works. No big deal." And it it was just, it was so quick. Like that was the weird part is everything was so quick. And I go over, I get a mammogram done, and I'd never had a mammogram, and I was only 38, so they whoever they is tell us to wait until your 40s or whatever. So I just didn't think anything of it. And I had all this fear. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I know my family members have told me this is the most painful thing I'm ever going to experience. And I'm going through the mammogram. I'm like, oh, this is like not a big deal. Why is everybody complaining about this? Whatever. Just totally nonchalant. And I could tell there was something wrong with it because the technician was like, oh, we're going to get you in another room for a different test. I was like, oh, okay. And bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Eve goes into the next room, and I'm not prepared at all because I just didn't have any clue. And I wouldn't say I was ignorant as much as I was naive about everything, uh, because I had just been through so much already that I was still in a whirlwind from some other trauma that had happened in my life previously, very recent, like close to when the diagnosis came. And so I'm in that next room and the lady is doing this ultrasound on me. And she's like, "Oh, that's cancer." And I'm like laying there with my boobs hanging out. I'm like, "Oh, this isn't really how it happens in the movies. Like you're supposed to be sitting across from a doctor in an office with like a picturesque view behind her and she's drinking a coffee and she opens a, manila envelope and is like, "Yes, it is cancer," or whatever. But it was no, it was this lady. And she's like, "We'll have to, confirm this, obviously. So I need you back in the morning. And in the morning, I need to know who you want to have as your surgeon." I'm like,
Wow.
I didn't even know a doctor. I certainly don't know any surgeons. So that was nuts. It was totally nuts. And just that was the first realization that I had that they were going to want me to follow their protocol and their timeline. And I don't really operate like that.
Hmm.
I like if
Yeah.
somebody tells me to do something, I'm kind of like
Mm,
not really that kind of person. I tend to question things probably an annoying amount, but it's my body and my life, and I also had no idea who to trust. I had like nobody expects to hear those words. You have cancer, especially at 38, and I still had 5 kids at home, so I was like, what am I gonna do for them? This is weird, and or you always go to the worst place in your head,
uh-huh.
whatever. So I just remember leaving and I was like, how am I going to tell my kids about this? They've already been through so much. I don't want to have them go through something else. And
Hmm.
we have this family motto of when it happens to one, it happens to all. And that means the good and the bad, right?
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, now it is my turn to practice this with my kids. And how do I keep this balance? So I go home and I tell them, like, hey, I think this is cancer and I don't have any answers for you how this is going to affect your life or my life or anything, but like let's figure it out. And it was so freaking hilarious because their response was, okay, well, we need to get a dog. That was their response to me getting cancer. And their kids are smart, man. Like their angle was that they would need a therapy dog to get them through my cancer. So, like a week later, we went and got a dog. So they won. And that,
That's so funny. Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
it's never get a puppy during cancer. That is not my brightest idea because I would be so tired from everything. And this dumb puppy that I love to death would take advantage of me being just laying in my bed, not being able to move, and she would come and like lick my toes or lick my face or whatever and not stop because that's what puppies do. It
Uh-huh.
was super annoying, but it probably kept me really positive because I was like, okay, when our Stella kiss is coming, but whatever. Yeah. So that was that. And so when I went back the next day for more testing, that's when I realized or like helped them realize that I wasn't going to follow their timeline, that
Hmm.
I was gonna drive the bus and they got to kind of tell me what routes were available and I was gonna
Hmm.
add some stops and that's what I did.
Perfect. Before we move forward, I would like to step back.
Yeah.
What symptoms or signs, when you were talking to your boss
Yeah.
about these things, what were those things?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because we always, they talk about doing self exams, right? Well, I wouldn't have been able to tell because my breasts have naturally, they're more lumpy or fibrous.
Interesting. All
And
right.
so but now that I know what it felt like, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a lot different. I should have probably known. But then I also had it was just my left breast. On the side, there was like a part of the skin that was always really itchy.
Hmm.
And I kept changing like how I was washing my clothes or maybe different clothes because I just assumed it was that, but it wasn't.
Hmm.
Especially 'cause it was so random. And then I had pain in my lymph nodes under my armpit because my cancer had spread to my lymph nodes already. Yeah, and so there was a lot of swelling in my lymph nodes that I just assumed I needed to do more like lymph massages and
Hmm.
whatever, right? More water. And
Yeah.
then I did have like a constant pain under my shoulder blade that I just thought was from living life.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So those are some signs, and it was pretty obvious. There was one thing you can look for is like changes in your skin, and definitely in that spot there was changes in the skin, but I didn't think anything of it.
Changes in the skin, like color, temperature,
The texture of that
texture.
skin was kind of like didn't feel like an orange peel, but it kind of had more of that texture all of a sudden.
Mm.
I hadn't really paid attention much to it. You get busy with life. You're not.
Yeah. I mean, and you have five
Oh,
kids and you were going through
yeah,
some other things at the time. I mean,
yeah, Totally.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
just whatever. It was what it was. And now that I look back, I it was kind of obvious if I would have known what the signs were. But
Uh-huh.
there's that. And I was 38, so I thought that was just what old women get.
Old
Oops.
woman. I'm feeling
Yeah.
so old, dude. Feeling
Yeah.
so old. Ah,
Yeah. Whatever old means, because when you
yeah.
were in your 20s, 40s is old. And
It's
when you're
it's so
40s, you're like,
true.
wait, that's not old. I'm 40.
Exactly. 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 Okay, so thank you for elaborating on that.
Yeah.
Before we get to you driving the bus, which
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more about, that initial impact of knowing that you have cancer and just that, how did you feel just emotionally in those early days of
Mm.
just finding out? Like what was going on with you emotionally and how did you work through that?
Oh man. Well, we're human, right? So we have all the emotions, and I felt like I was I was cycling through them all the time, and I was so angry at first because my ex-husband was and is just not like the best human being. I was like, "Hold on, universe. Like this dude is a prick. Can't he get cancer? Like why me? Why not him?" We try to logic and what that wasn't even logical, but all this that was my initial thought. I'm like, that's crap. That's crap. This is crap. Like, whatever. And then I went to the point of uh I don't want anyone knowing I'm sick because I had already been through such a traumatic situation leaving my marriage that I didn't want anyone to pity me. That was really important to me to not, I don't like pity from other people. It really bothers me. And I also do not like asking for help,
Mm,
which cancer is a really big teacher for how to ask for help and to humble you into figuring out why you've never asked for help.
mm,
Um, and so I approached it, first with anger, and then I was angry that my kids would have to go through something again because it wasn't fair to them. And that was my main frustration for sure because I just wanted them to have like experience what normal was. I felt like we had just gotten to freedom and
mhm,
now all of a sudden they were going to have another, prison cell to be in. And so how was I going to make it not a prison cell? And then your mind always goes to worst case scenario, like what happens if I die? Like if I die,
yeah,
my children might have to go back with their father, and that would be terrible. I'm like, well, I'm not freaking dying just because of that. So screw you, cancer. Like you're not taking me. So it's a roller coaster, and it's that I don't know that fun is the right word. Um, but I appreciate that it was such a beautiful opportunity to feel so deeply, like all the time. And when you face mortality, it changes perspective completely on things. And it's a different perspective than when we got our freedom, right? So to have that perspective of not having freedom into freedom and now the perspective changing of life and death. That was huge and a lesson that I don't know if I ever would have learned in life. Who knows? But I'm just so deeply grateful that I got to have that at 38 and to then really finally wipe the slate clean in my life. I'm like, cool, well, I've literally lost everything in my life all the way down to my health. Now I get to start rebuilding it. And really that's what my cancer journey was,
mhm,
is the final piece of how do I want to build my life and how do I want to live. It
mhm,
was amazing.
mm, 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 mm. I love this. I love you sharing all of these things because I just know how meaningful it's going to be for those who really need to hear it, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Eve driving the bus. So you go back in the next day and they're like, hey, do you have a surgeon picked out? And what is your response? How did you move
Yeah.
forward from there?
Yeah, I just let the lady know. I can't remember what her position was. I said, listen, I don't know a lot about this, and I've already had this cancer for who knows how long in my body. If I wait another couple of months while I do some research, whatever, like that's how I'm going to do it. And if I need to sign some paper saying I'm not going to sue you for not cutting me up today or whatever it is, then I'll sign it because I need peace in my life and I'm going to do this in a peaceful way. And nothing about your bright lights and your cold tables and your beeping and all of this prodding and poking is peaceful. And so I just like I didn't give them a choice. It's my body. But I think in these situations, especially when the cancer word is brought up, people go into a panic where they're like, oh my God, just get it out of me. Just get this taken care of. Like, you're the doctor. I trust you. You're the experts. I trust you, blah, 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 all that stuff, right? Um, there, like, your body has wisdom too. And there is a way to weave that together so that it can work together because you're never going to get into a place of healing, which is not something that um, Western medicine doesn't approach from the place of healing. They are just like, let's get it out, cut it out of you, get done. Hopefully, it doesn't come back.
Hmm.
I wanted to incorporate in healing as well, which is a little bit foreign to a lot of these doctors, and so they, I don't know, they just didn't have a choice. I didn't give them a choice because you have to become your biggest advocate, and it
Hmm.
sucks and it's hard because you're also so high on your emotions all the time. And so you have to really learn to like almost toggle it on and off when it's necessary. And that's actually one huge thing that I did through cancer is I would schedule time to feel. And that's what I had to do because otherwise I would be stuck feeling all the time. I would have not gotten anything done.
Did they, when you first told them, hey, I'm going to take a little bit of time, as much time as
Mhm.
I need to be able to do this, did they
Mhm.
pressure you? Did they say, hey, you don't have a couple of months? Or did they like, what was their reaction?
I think it was pretty mixed because I needed to have so I had my oncologist, then that's who you meet with regularly. That's who helps you set up your plan. And then I had a breast surgeon, and then I had a plastic surgeon. They ended up finding some other tumors in my body, so I had two other surgeons for that, and then all the other medical staff. And my my oncologist, which he's an amazing human, he he was so accepting of everything that I wanted to do. Um, he still offered his opinion. Um, and there was some stuff that I know he didn't necessarily agree with, but he also knew that I had researched. Like I would bring him research, not just stuff I found on Google or whatever, but like medical papers because I knew I was traversing two worlds, right? And so
Hmm.
I knew that I needed to approach him from the medical side, but I could always find enough research that could back up some of the stuff that I wanted to do. I just had to be patient enough to do it and
Hmm.
not to get to that patience. It's you have to move through your fear. You can't get stuck in
Hmm.
your fear
Yeah.
because it's super easy to go there
Hmm.
because it's like your life on the line, right? And
Hmm.
and likewise, what is really interesting to me, and this is I don't know if I'm alone in this or whatever, but I don't really care. There's the medical side, but then there's also like, the health and wellness side people. And I actually found that the health and wellness side people were less accepting and still are to this
Oh,
day, of my choice to
huh.
utilize Western medicine as
Interesting.
well. Even though I married the two together and I wove
Uh-huh.
them together, and that was shocking to me because I didn't expect that. And um it actually was really frustrating because anytime I would like try to research some other modalities that would be helpful, stuff would come out of left field where I'm like, hold on, but you're sharing this with me, and I understand there's no research, and I know why there's no research, but I don't want to hear an opinion about something you read on Facebook from your aunt's cat or something like that.
Sure.
Like, this is
Yeah.
my life on my line
Uh-huh.
and on the line, and my kids only have one parent. So
Uh-huh.
I knew on this side, I knew on the medical side, I knew my chances of survival were like really freaking high, especially with breast cancer because there's so much research put into it. And on this side, there's a lot of unknowns. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
find which unknowns I was okay with.
Mm-hmm.
And then on this side, I had to decide, well, really the same thing. Like, am I okay with the possible long-term side effects? Because we don't know which side effects I might get from some of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to balance the two out of totally different unknowns and which ones I was okay with. And I also researched my doctors. That's
I
how
was
I
just getting ready
found,
to ask you. I was just getting ready
yeah,
to ask you because we went from I have no doctors, here's the person I chose to I need to find a surgeon, but I wanted
yeah,
to close that loop because I'm
yeah.
really curious as to how you got
I,
your oncologist and the others.
so the oncologist I found, I, so my research started with, this sounds really not very scientific, but I started with podcasts from women that had breast cancer. And I, for like 2 weeks solid, I don't know, maybe it was a week, who knows. I would just listen to all these podcasts of women talking about how they managed their breast cancer. And I kept a list. I'm like, I like what they did there. I like what they did there. That sounds dumb. I'll never do that in a million years. Sounds too hard. I won't follow through with that. Um, I found the pieces that worked for me. And then when I started calling doctors, I had like a set of questions that I would ask every single doctor, and if I didn't like their answers, I would just mark them off the list. So my my questions were, this sounds, there's a reason. Like, I'll get to the reason. So I asked them what their favorite joke was, and the reason for that is I needed somebody that had a sense of humor because I constantly joke, and it's a big deal to me to always have laughter and levity in a situation like this. And I'm really dark. So I found the darkest cancer jokes I could find. And I would tell the doctors in like my interview with them. And if they didn't laugh, I was like, this is not a good fit because I don't want to have to mask I for your comfort. And that's,
Mhm.
I knew there was still a part of me that did that in my life. And I didn't want to be that person. This is not the
Mhm.
time for me to like fall back into people pleasing. Like, I'm
Mhm.
healing and that'll take me opposite of healing. So I'd ask them that question. And then I would ask them what their favorite spices were for food because that tells me a lot about their relationship um with food and how they enjoy their life. I don't can't quite explain. You can tell when somebody answers that question. And there were some like, oh, I love this spice, and this is where I like to buy these spices and all this. I'm like, okay, cool. We can talk about weird stuff, and they'll be okay with that. And then I would ask them if they had a significant like a partner in their life, and if they fought with the partner the night before. I was just trying to catch them off guard, and I wanted to see how they responded with that because I with all my doctors, I got pretty personal with them. And I told him, like, if you're a person that is going to cut into me, I want to know that you didn't just have a fight with your partner. I don't want you to bring that energy into the operating room or into our appointments. I want to know that you know how to manage your own energy, not just, you know, were you the straight A student in med school, which would kind of be nice. I don't really want the F student. Hopefully they didn't pass. Which is actually another question I asked is what their grades were in med school, even though it was like 20, 30 years ago for some of them. So I just found the questions that made me feel easier.
Hmm.
And I did. I eliminated a couple. There was this one guy, man. He was, he was so unpleasant. And he walked in. He's a surgeon, right? He walks in. He's this big dude, these short little T-Rex arms. And I look at him. I'm like, I don't want him operating on me. Like, what if something happens to me on the table and he has to do CPR and like he can't reach because his arms are too short? And I'm just all these scenarios running through my head. And I start asking him these questions, and he looks at me, he's like, these are very unprofessional. I'm like, I said, cool. I said, you're going to see me naked for like 12 hours straight while I'm knocked out. I want to know if I like your energy. It's as simple as that. I said, I don't really like your energy, so I'm going to go. And I got up and I grabbed my clothes and I walked out and I changed in the bathroom. And I was like, done. And his nurse
Yeah.
came to me and I just told her, I said, I don't know why you would work for him. He's really unpleasant. I'm just going to go. And I was that blunt because I knew I had to heal.
Hmm.
Anybody can cut cancer out of somebody. Anybody can do that, but not everybody brings the right energy.
Hmm.
So, and with my plastic surgeon and my breast surgeon, um, I had found their podcasts, and specifically the plastic surgeon. He was talking about him and the partner in his practice. They were talking about how they've been able to bring in chakra work into their practice for their cancer patients, and how other plastic surgeons kind of are like, "You're crazy. Why are you doing this?" And who cares about energy or whatever? I'm like, oh, cool. And I had to travel 6 hours to get that type of medical care, but it was worth it
Hmm. Yeah.
because I could do my weird stuff and my weird demands, and they didn't think it was weird. It was beautiful.
What kind of treatment did you undergo, and how did you make that decision?
Yeah. So, okay. Um, so the way they do everything with breast cancer, and obviously there's different types of breast cancer that you can get. So I had hormone positive cancer, which changes your treatment a little. Um, and I had like quote unquote the easier cancer, which is nice, I guess. But it is because I've seen what some other women have had to go through, and it was a lot more than I did. But according to protocol, the best course of treatment was, my numbers might be a little off, but they're going to be close. It was 16 rounds of chemotherapy. And that was like, it was either every week or every other week. I don't even remember now. It's been a while. I think it was every week. And
16 rounds per week, to clarify.
no, one. So it was 16 weeks,
Weeks. Okay.
one per week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it was like two different kinds of chemo. And then after that is radiation. But before chemo started, I had my mastectomy. And we were going to do reconstruction right away, but that's when they found other tumors in my body. And so we needed to wait on those to have those removed first. Uh, so mastectomy, then chemo, then radiation. And then I had a series of surgeries after that over the course of about 18 months. Um, yeah. And then radiation, I had 28 rounds, 32 rounds, and that's daily. You go in daily for that. It's interesting because radiation, you kind of still cook after you're done with radiation. And so it's really after radiation where it gets bad for you, or has the potential of getting bad. Chemo is you're really freaking tired, and it's weird, and your body doesn't feel like your body anymore for a while. Um, but they let you know what their protocol is. And then most people just go with it, right? And so
Hmm.
that's kind of where I started to deviate.
Did you have any unexpected challenges during your treatments?
Oh, that's a good. I don't even think anybody's ever asked me that before. Unexpected challenges. Well, okay. So if I go like logical side, unexpected challenge was when we found additional tumors in my body that needed to be addressed before we could finish any sort of reconstruction. And that felt very devastating because I like to get things done fast. And it forced a lot of slowdown. And it was pretty major, scary surgeries. The one surgery um, had a really high likelihood that I would have to have a colostomy bag the rest of my life. Luckily, it didn't turn out that way. But it was to the point where there was no choice because of where the tumor was located and how it had entangled itself in my body. So that was a lot. That was a scary surgery for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, but then the really the unexpected thing that I've heard survivors talk about, but I didn't really pay attention to before, is that initial part. Every This is going to sound really ungrateful, and I don't mean it like this at all. It just is what it is. The initial part when you're diagnosed with cancer, you have an abundance of help. Everybody wants to help, and you don't even know what you need help with. And so it's overwhelming. But when you don't look like a cancer patient anymore, you're just kind of like left. And I don't mean that like
Hmm.
it's not like a personal
You
attack.
appear to be okay, so you must be
Yeah.
okay. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's when things actually get hard because your whole life is different. Your relationship with your body is different, and you're still pretty freaking exhausted for a couple of years afterwards. And that's when, honestly, that's when it would be really nice to have support instead of
Hmm.
the beginning where you literally just don't know what you need.
Yeah.
And that was pretty unexpected, but it also an interesting part of this journey was allowing my relationship with relationships to evolve because I recognized who was there because they wanted an Instagram moment to be like, oh, I helped out the cancer patient, like selfie, selfie,
Hmm.
selfie. And to the people that were showing up and,
Hmm.
cleaning my bathroom because I couldn't risk getting sick,
Hmm.
little things like
Yeah.
that. And it refined um, how I let people into my energy field. And I used to be somebody that just let anybody in. I don't know. It sounds like so self-important. I don't mean it like that at all. But I think that goes along with people pleasing, right?
Hmm.
Where it gave me the space and the time to think about like, why do I have that person in my life?
Hmm.
Is it just because of convenience? Is it draining? Is like, what's the energy exchange between both of us? It's
Hmm.
okay for it to be equal. It doesn't always have to be equal. Sometimes somebody will need more of you, and that's okay. There's consent there, right? But if it's always like that, maybe there needs to be
Mm.
some
Yeah.
evaluation there. So it gave me time to pause and evaluate relationships in my life. And that was probably the most unexpected thing that came
Mm.
up for me,
Hmm.
which is
Interesting.
weird. It's not
I love
like
that answer.
it's not cancer at all, right? Which we can do that at any point in our life, but some of us have to have cancer come into our life to do it.
So that leads right into my next question, which is how did you manage the physical and emotional toll of your treatments?
Oh man. Okay, so when I was listening to those podcasts at the very beginning, I had found this lady that had been interviewed. She's from Australia, and she talked about um wanting to, she was a long distance runner, and when she was diagnosed, and she wanted to run to her chemo treatments to and from. And I was
Mm,
like, oh, that's the
mm,
attitude I want. Like I'm not sick. I'm not sick. This is not my cancer. I'm not claiming this as my new best friend or anything about this, because our words matter, right? The
yeah.
words that we speak matter. It speaks energy into your body and into the world. And so I made the decision that I would walk to and from chemo every time. There's only one I missed because, well, I walked to it. I wasn't allowed to walk home though because it was like 102 degrees, and you're pretty wiped out after chemo. And
Hmm.
I almost walked home. I got a ride and then I made them drop me off because I felt like I would let myself down if I didn't. So I walked the last 2 blocks and I counted it. Um, because that was really important to me. Like my
Hmm.
integrity with myself in this battle was really important to me. And so I approached it that way. I remember I had made this bucket list of things I hadn't done before that I really wanted to do. And it was freaking hilarious. I called up my friend that I was sure for whatever reason had gone skinny dipping. And I'd never gone. I'm like, I really want to go skinny dipping. I don't know why. I feel like I want to check it off my list. I need to, like, that inner teenager needs that experience. And I call her up and we drive up to Lake Michigan and we hike over these dunes to this beach that nobody goes to because you have to hike over dunes. It's like 1 a.m. We're hiking over these dunes and we get to the beach and I start walking in. I'm still a little like, don't really want to take off my clothes on the beach because what if there's somebody there? Like, whatever, right? It's a new experience for me. She just rips her clothes off. She starts going in, and I run in my clothes. I get into the water, and then I take off my clothes and I just let them float away. I brought some more clothes with me, and it was like very symbolic. Like, I love symbols and symbolism and ceremony. And so it was an outfit that my ex-husband had brought me. So I was going to leave it in the lake and let the lake do its thing. Don't worry, it was natural fibers. So anyway, like, I was very thoughtful as much as I could be. And we're like totally butt naked. And then all of a sudden we're like running farther out, and then we hit a sandbar and we're like all the way out again. I'm like, oh my gosh, we picked the worst spot. And so we keep running out, and then we're running back in, and I'm laughing because she is like this beautiful specimen of a human, like running back, and I'm like one boob, no hair, no eyebrows. I probably look like a sea monster coming out of the water. And we get to the beach and we get dressed and we're hiking back. And you know when you like work out really hard and you can hear your heartbeat in your head and you're like, oh, I might
Uh,
have pushed it a little too hard. I'm starting to hear my heartbeat in my head. I'm like
mm,
huffing and puffing going over these dunes. I'm like, I look back at her and I'm like, oh my gosh, can we slow down? Like, I feel like I might pass out and I don't understand why I'm so tired. And she looks at me and she's super athletic. And she looks at me and she's like, bitch. She's like, I've been trying to keep up with you. She's like, I would love to slow down. She's like, and didn't you have chemo today? She's like, maybe that's why you're tired. Like, oh, you're right. I did. I totally forgot. And the other funny part is I was so worried that my hair would be wet on the way back to the car. I was worried about getting sick. And then when I got to the car, I'm like, oh, I don't have hair. I totally forgot. I'm fine. I'm probably dry by the time I got out of the water. Like, I'm a hairless salamander right now. And it was just so funny, but that's kind of how I approached it. But it wasn't from old me. That would have been like a dissociation of
mhm,
crappiness of the whole entire situation, where I recognized how hard everything was, and I allowed myself to honor that. But it didn't slow me down. Like, it did not slow me down. And I learned to honor when you're tired, you sleep. When
mhm.
you know when you can actually eat some food, put some food into your body, but don't stop living life. And that means different things to different people. So that's not
Mhm.
like this,
Yeah.
badge of honor for me that I was able to go hiking or whatever. It is what it is. Because there were
Uh-huh.
times I absolutely couldn't. It sucked. But
Hmm.
that's kind of how I approached it. This is not, I'm not a victim of this. What am I going to learn from this? And I
Yeah.
learned a hell of a lot about myself during the process.
Yeah. I'm sure you did. Oh my goodness. Were there any holistic alternatives that you used alongside of the
Yes.
other practices or the other treatments that you were receiving?
Yeah. Well, holistic treatments in Indiana are funny to me. I kind of giggle about it because what is considered holistic here in Indiana is just normal in Colorado, where I'm from. And so, right? Like,
Oh,
it just
yeah.
is what it is.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's so fascinating. And so I did regular massages. That was a big deal. Um, breath work was a big one for me.
Did you
Actually,
know about breathwork prior to this journey?
um, mm, a little bit. Not,
Okay.
yeah,
Mm,
a little bit. Breath work was a big deal because I did not want to use any sort of pain medication during.
mm, wow.
I was worried. Um, there's a high likelihood that you can get addicted to pain medication. And when you're going through cancer treatments, they'll give you like anything. Um, and so that was a request that I had that they never even offered to me, that I would use my breath to manage my pain levels. And I did.
Mm,
It was a big deal. Um, I had uh, certain, so foods were medicine and they are medicine. And there was some oils that, and if you asked me right now, I definitely would not remember, that I would use that had no like contraindications with what was going on.
like essential oils or like coconut sesame oils?
Like essential oils.
Okay.
And then there was, I'm really bad with numbers. There's like 7 or 9 different receptors in the brain that trigger nausea. And
Mm,
that's a big problem with chemotherapy, is being
hmm.
nauseated all the time. And I didn't take any of that medication. I used cannabis for that instead,
It's
which
so helpful for nausea. It's so helpful. Hmm.
yeah, it worked almost instantly for me. And um, I had tried the nausea medicine once and I hated how it made me feel. I'm like, I am not doing this. This is silly. And you have to take it so much, where I could
Mm,
just slice cannabis like once and I was fine.
hmm.
And it doesn't have the side effects.
Right.
So there were just like a lot of little things like that. Meditation was a huge one for me, visualization.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
I did things like I didn't allow overhead lights to be on in any of my rooms, obviously the operating room, because I want them to see what they're doing. Um,
Hmm.
so I didn't allow overhead lights because that's like super aggressive, all the lighting that they use in hospitals.
Yeah.
I didn't use any of the hospital food. Um, I always had music going. Music is medicine. And
Hmm.
so I had playlists and I would bring a speaker and I would have, candles and incense and anything that I could bring in that could make that space a place of healing. And it was
Into the hospital room. Oh my goodness.
yeah,
I'm so happy that they allowed. I mean,
yeah.
obviously they
Well, they didn't
needed
have
to
a
allow,
choice.
right?
They didn't have a choice. And
So
they,
I think that that's a big point that so
yeah,
many people need to hear, that they did not have a choice. These were your choices, and this is what you're going to do. You
yeah,
vocalized it, you made it happen, and you did not succumb to them saying you have to do it our way.
yeah,
Love this.
yeah. I wouldn't,
Hmm.
another thing that I didn't do is I wouldn't wear hospital clothes. I brought my own clothes and I had to do a little bit of research of like what is allowed in the hospital. And if that hospital didn't allow me to wear my own clothing, I just wouldn't choose that hospital. And
Ah,
I had to pick
uh-huh.
a different doctor, which I'd have to start over. And it sounds like a lot, but it made it So much better. My biggest surgery, where they had to remove a bunch of tumors from, like, they had cut me open. I was cut open from my sternum all the way down to my pubic bone, and then from my hip to my hip. I was like wide open. Um, they expected that I would be in the hospital for like 5 to 7 days mandatory. And I looked at them, I'm like, watch me, I'll be out in 3 days. They're like, there's no way. I'm like, cool, sounds good. I was out in 3 days. And it's because you're there to heal, you know? If you go in with that mindset, they're not in that mindset because that's not their job to be in that mindset.
Right.
Job is to make
Right.
sure you stay alive while you're with them. But from the moment, even one thing that I did, even going into surgery, anytime I went into surgeries, there was like 9 surgeries over the course of those 2 years. Every time when they put you under, you know how they have you like you count backwards until you're.
Uh-huh.
And I wouldn't do
Yeah.
that. What I would
Get to
make,
4 and you're out.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would. It was actually kind of fun. I would pick the playlist for the room because I wanted like healthy music being played because I'm under. That's really
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I would pick the playlist. I would uh and I would make the surgery staff, which whatever, I would make the surgery staff tell me one thing that they love about themselves as I'm going under because that's the energy that I want into the room going into it. And then a couple days before surgery, what I would do is like, okay, they're basically getting me high with this medicine. And when I come out, I'm not going to waste this high. I'm going to process something. So what am I going to process? And it was really funny because each person that went to each surgery with me, they would come out and they're like, who is this person or what was this situation? I'm like, oh, good, it worked. And I would go in with that intention of like, what am I healing in my body as I'm like super internal with this? Like, obviously it's a man-made medicine, but whatever, you're still going internal. And it was kind of entertaining because the one surgeon came out and he's like, who's so and so? I'm like, oh no. And he looked at my sister and she's like, you don't want to know. I'm like, well, I feel a lot cleaner about that relationship now. So must have been good.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's transition a little bit to like just sport and community things. What were some of your greatest supports, source of support during your journey?
Oh, well, for sure it was my friends and having friends that didn't see me as a cancer patient because you can tell when you have cancer, people are afraid to talk about it. But I understand,
Hmm.
I get it. Um, but I just wanted to be a normal human.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear what my friends were going through. And it broke my heart when they would shield me from their life.
Mm.
Didn't want to
Hmm.
burden me. I was like, no, like
Yeah.
I'm not excited to think about cancer all the time. It's there either way. I still want to hear about your life. I care about you and I
Yeah.
love you. And that was a big deal. That was super healing is the people that could push past their like worry, and still be themselves around me. Um,
Hmm.
and then people that still reached out to invite me to do stuff because sometimes it's really hard when you're going through cancer and you see, oh, I'm going to get a little emotional. You see everybody living their life and you can't. You're stuck.
Hmm.
You're in a
Hmm.
holding pattern as you figure your new life out and your new way you dance with your life.
Hmm.
And I would just sit there and be like, man, I really want to be doing that. And I knew I couldn't because it would have been very unsafe for my body or just not the right timing. But to even be invited to go do normal stuff just felt it was so nourishing because it's very easy when people are going through hard stuff. We don't know how to support them. And so we kind of default to like shrinking and not, like
Hmm.
it's okay to mess up. Go mess up and normalize messing up not knowing how to support, but normalize asking the person what would feel supportive.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's helpful.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah.
asking.
Thank you. Were there any support groups or like communities that you found made a difference along your journey?
Yeah, there were a couple of Facebook groups that I found that were, well, okay, this is double-edged sword. It was helpful when I knew what kind of reconstruction I wanted. I found the groups of women online that talked about that, so I knew what that could look like. I didn't necessarily find the Facebook breast cancer groups helpful because there's a lot of fear in there. Um, and it's really easy to feed fear,
Hmm.
but it's
Yeah.
not easy to feed that positive outlook. That's more of a
Hmm.
battle. And so I found it more helpful to surround myself with people in life that were positive, than online people
Hmm.
necessarily, except the ones that were, which is interesting, except the ones that were through my reconstruction doctor. And shocking, like their practice is more integrative with what they do.
Hmm.
So I think it probably attracts more people like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still have some friends that I met online through those groups that we still talk regularly. It's nice to know that you're gonna make it through. And it's gonna
Hmm.
suck. And it's not like Pollyannas that are like, this is gonna be awesome. It's like, no, I freaking got my boob cut off, walked around like a freaking cyclops for like a year and a half. I would have this stupid fake boob that I was supposed to wear, but I hated it because my dog would always find it and it turned into a dog toy. I'm like, you know what? It's yours now. I don't even need it. And then I would wear a bra with this group that knits like padding and it's called knitted knockers. And that's what I would wear. But I would always forget to pin it in. So if I bent over, this knitted knocker would fall out of my bra. And it, like, I got so comfortable with myself during the cancer process because I was like, oh, there's my boob on the floor. You're welcome. Like, this can't get any worse. It can only go up from here.
Oh, oh my goodness. I love how you're just able to not take yourself seriously. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, was there anything that kept you mentally and emotionally strong that,
Mm.
like, as a tool or a person or a thing, like, was there something that
Yeah.
that helped?
Yeah, I set a really strong boundary in my home. Anybody that crossed the threshold of my door, they were not allowed to bring in negative. And um
That had to be hard to manage with 5 kids.
yeah, well, they're human, so and I'm human.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
But it was more like people that would come over and the only way they could relate to me was if they talked about their health problems too. I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, like you're a person. I want to hear about you. I don't want to hear about your
yeah.
like bunion. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's got to be more depth there." Or I didn't want to hear about politics and I didn't want to hear about like this person and what crappy thing they did or whatever. I got very protective of my healing space. And that was a really huge boundary that I set.
What have you learned most about yourself through this journey?
I've learned most about myself is how long I had ignored my own body. Um, I've learned how much trauma affects your body. Even if you want to pretend it doesn't, it does. You don't get to make that choice. That's just kind of like a law of the universe there. Uh, and I learned that I think I really learned my relationship with capacity is how I would put
Mm,
it. Is everybody's always talking about like, I can't handle this. I can't do this. I can't do this.
mm,
Sure,
mhm.
maybe that's true, but let's explore why. Maybe you can't
Ah,
handle that because you haven't cleared out the shit that's in there.
uh-huh.
We already have infinite capacity. We don't need to raise our ability or grow our capacity. It's literally already there. What we need to do is we need to go inside and we need to look at why we're feeling at capacity and what needs to be
Mhm,
cleared out. Maybe there needs to be something cleared out from childhood or past relationships or narratives that you tell yourself, whatever it is. You start to work through that stuff and especially narratives that you tell yourself that you've clung to for whatever reason. And once you
mhm,
start to address those and work with those in a very loving and compassionate way, it clears out of your body and your
mhm,
capacity all of a sudden is there like it always has been.
mm,
So you can allow then, once you've cleared that out, that capacity that's there and open and fresh and ready, you can then allow what comes in. Because everything that has made you feel like you're at capacity, that's just happened to you. It probably wasn't anything you did intentionally. It just
mhm,
happened. And so when you start to live your life in an intentional way, it just feels totally different. It feels
mhm,
totally different. And during my cancer journey, I still ran across some relationships that were newer relationships in my life that I recognized how I was still letting those old narratives allow me to be treated. And it was really interesting because it was like a lesson on top of a lesson on top of a lesson, all happening through cancer. But because I was slowed down because of cancer, I could concentrate on these other lessons I was learning, not
mhm,
just from the cancer. And so when I was finally done with my last surgery, I had cleared so much out of my system, so much that now I'm kind of like, this is awesome. Like, I don't know, I'm still the same person that kind of pisses people off accidentally. But I'm a million times better at apologizing now. And I'm also, um, I also think that one of the gifts that I get to give to the world, we all have them. One of my gifts is the ability to say stronger things without that worry that people are going to like me. And I don't want to be like an asshole or anything, but that's just one of those gifts. I can see it, and
mhm,
it doesn't always come out very eloquently. But I don't think that's always necessary. Like we need to stop those narratives in our lives, and hopefully we can see those narratives in others. And when the relationship is right, be able to share that with people. And before, I would have accepted everybody's bullshit narrative about themselves, and I was so naive. And yeah, so thank you, cancer.
mm. Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you wish more people understood about breast cancer?
Wish that more people understood that I'm gonna group two people. So there's people that don't have breast cancer and people that do have breast cancer. So with people that don't have breast cancer, what I wish they understood is that there's no one way to treat it. And the best thing that you can do for a cancer patient is to offer a listening ear and less talking to them,
Mm, mhm,
because there's a lot of processing that needs to happen. And it's hard to be an advocate for yourself when you feel like if you make a decision that those you care about don't agree with, it that felt like more pressure than anything that came from a doctor,
Mm.
because I knew that some of my family and friends wouldn't agree with some of my decisions. Like one of my decisions is I ended my chemo early, because I felt in my body like I was complete with it, and I had sat with myself in meditation for a long time, and I felt very complete with it. And so I ended it, I think it was 4 sessions early, and it was against my doctor's wishes and desire for my healing, or treatment, not healing. But I knew that it was the right thing for me. I just couldn't explain it to anyone. It was my intuition, and it was okay.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so I needed people in that moment to just be supportive.
Yeah.
Um, and so from the breast cancer perspective of what I wish more breast cancer humans knew is that this can be an experience where um, you get an opportunity that most humans don't get on the level of radical acceptance of your body.
Mm.
Especially for women that get breast cancer, which is the majority, right? Um, when you're walking around with what society like deems a woman, like beautiful long hair, two boobs, like all of a sudden you don't have any of that. And you're like, am I even feminine anymore?
Mm.
What am I? Am I a woman? Like all of this stuff. And you notice how inundated we are with those images where it didn't, like, I knew it before, but I didn't know it on the level that I did
Mm.
once I was walking around. I remember I was in the store one time, and it was very obvious, like I had no eyelashes, no eyebrows. My hair was, I was made cue balls jealous. I was so bald, and I was just not feeling well that day. I just had run over to the store to grab some groceries, and a guy in line asked me if I felt like a woman. It was like so bold of him to ask me. And I just looked at him and I'm like, I can't tell if you're naive or ignorant. And that was my answer to him. And then I turned around. I was like, what? And I remember that was the day where I was like, oh, I noticed for the first time how others were observing me.
Mm.
I had to decide that day if I was going to let that affect me.
Mhm.
And as women, especially as women, we go through our lives and it's so much about looks and how you present yourself to others. Like, are you visually pleasing to others or whatever? And I'm like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Like, I got out of bed today and that is a fucking win. Like, I
Right.
was able to shower without falling over because I have no energy. Like, I don't care if I'm visually pleasing anymore. I
Uh-huh.
don't care. And then I would like look at these huge scars. Like I have scars all over my front now. And I I forget regularly because every once in a while I have a scar up by my shoulder from my port. And every once in a while, I'll notice somebody looking at the scar. And I'm like, oh yeah, this other people would be bothered by this if this was on their body. Not everybody, but I forget
Yeah.
it's even there because it's just like part of my story, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I think about that. That's one of the visualizations that I would use after surgeries is I would see the scars or whatever as they were healing the wounds, and I would just allow like that golden light, that golden honey, to come in to these wounds and just heal them up. And it was there's absolutely something to it because every single one of my doctors, when I would go back for rechecks, they're like, what is going on? I'd be like, how are you healing so fast? I'm like, I don't know. I have a good attitude. I have humor and I do what I want. Like, I don't know. Like, it just
Power
happens.
of visualization.
Yeah. And I breathe all the time and I connect with my body and I don't deny what it needs. And it was a big deal. Like, after my mastectomy, I was up. and running like 3 days later.
What?
Like, yeah, because I knew I needed to be really strong. Oh, that's something for women with breast cancer that would be really smart. Not that it's another to do that they need, but uh, your leg strength is vitally important if you're going to go through a lot of surgeries,
Hmm.
um, because you can't really use your abdominal muscles or your
Oh,
arms as you're
yeah.
healing. And
Uh-huh.
so the more squats you can do and the more like leg presses and calf raises and all that kind of stuff, which is all simple stuff you can do at home to just start to work on your leg strength because you're going to rely on your legs a lot for recovery, which sounds so random, but it was really helpful. I was really strong going into each of my surgeries and that helped.
Thank you for giving that tidbit. I'm sure that it's going to be really helpful for those who are just starting their journey.
Yeah.
Are you involved in any type of advocacy or awareness or support efforts, that are might be going on?
Uh, um for okay, I I support cancer patients. So I do breath work for cancer patients at an organization in our town, uh, which is, and it's not specific to breast cancer, actually, it's just cancer patients. And then I've connected, I personally, I have a list of places where you can go get testing done for free, um,
Mm,
which is a big deal because a lot of people don't get testing done, which I don't personally fall into the camp of like, don't get testing, it's unnecessary. Because if I would have fallen into that camp, I would be dead. Quite literally, I had my cancer was a little more aggressive, and I if I hadn't caught it when we caught it, I'd be gone. It had already spread in my body, so I was lucky that I had a boss that put her foot down and
yeah.
had to take care of it. So
Hmm.
advocacy in that way, I think the best way we can be an advocate is encouraging women to um, have mammograms. I know there's a lot of people that would not agree with that, but I've had cancer, so suck it.
Uh-huh.
Um, because it's very simple to test. At the very least, you should absolutely be doing self exams so you do know when something feels different, and that includes going into your armpits, not just on your
Mm,
breast. Go all the way around, because you have breast tissue in that area too as well,
hmm.
or can have it. Little
Yeah.
things like that. So not necessarily like strong advocacy for that, but awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. That's helpful. Eve, what does survivorship mean to you today?
Um, it's weird. Uh, you don't, people that have had cancer, I've talked to people with cancer that we all kind of get it. Like there's this thing that we can't quite explain if you haven't gone through this. Your life is just not ever the same ever again. Like I could have a random pain in my body, which is normal at 43, right? I sound ancient when I say it that way, but it's not, it's different, right? And your first thought is like, oh no, what if?
Mm,
So you always have that what if. You can still be massively positive and still have those what ifs.
hmm.
And it's always there. Um, or so there's that big one that just kind of never goes away. And then there's a book that I had read. It's like, uh, I've been through cancer. Now what the fuck do I do? And that's kind of what it is because like you have this huge chunk of your life that is all about like I'm gonna live, I'm gonna live, I'm gonna live, I'm gonna make sure this doesn't consume me. And then all of a sudden you're like done.
Mm.
Okay,
Now
now
what?
it is the
Yeah.
strangest feeling, but I would say survivorship is, for me, it's been more about my relationship to stuff not bothering me, and not in a way of ignoring or numbing out or anything. I just, it's like most stuff is not that big of a deal. And if it
Yeah.
is, address it right away and don't let it build. Because
Hmm.
tomorrow you could like have your life totally change. It's so cliche to say, but it's true. It's true. I
Yeah.
really believe that. And that comes down to like what relationships I have in my life, what media goes into my body, how much time I'm spending out in nature. What
Hmm.
do I really care about? And
Hmm.
if I have this rule that came because of cancer, is my rule of three, where if I think about something three times, whether it be a person or something that's frustrating in my life or something that I want to do, if I've thought about it three times, I take action on it. So I've thought about, say that person's crossed my mind like three times. That means I need to contact him, whether it be just like
Hmm.
a nice text, like, hey, thinking about you, or grab a
Hmm.
coffee or something, or if it's like something that annoys me in my life. I don't want to live a life where I'm annoyed by anything. And so if
Hmm.
I can like fix that problem, I just get it fixed and I get it out of the way because I don't want all of these energy leaks.
Yeah.
Because I know what it feels like to worry that your life may not be long, right? And I want that capacity to be able to make change. And if I'm annoyed by the kind of socks I'm wearing or some disorganization in my life or something like silly, I can't think of anything right now, but I just take care of it because that's going to take energy away from purpose and passion. I
Hmm.
will not live a life that doesn't have passion in it.
Hmm.
Before it was kind of like, yeah, when I get my to-do list done and when I make a bazillion bucks or whatever, then I'll go live my passion. It's like, no, now I'm living
Uh-huh.
my passion.
Hmm.
And I don't have space for other stuff because I don't want space for other stuff.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. What advice would you give to someone newly diagnosed?
Slow down, like go slow. Um, Cry.
Mm.
Don't feel shame for crying because it's
Hmm.
scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And let yourself have moments where you can collapse
Hmm.
and go into that and let yourself feel it and also know that you're going to come out of it and then you're going to go into it and you're going to come out of it and you're going to go into it and you're going to come out of it and let yourself ride the waves. Don't
Hmm.
worry that if you go into a collapse that you're going to stay there
Yeah.
because you're going to look for those victories, and um that's that's such a beautiful part of it. And uh if you can, um you're not going to remember anything that's told to you at the beginning. It's going to sound like they're aliens speaking to you, and for them it's their everyday lingo. And so stop them and ask them what this stuff means, and ask them what the alternatives are. Ask them what their protocol is and why they follow that. And then tell them that you don't want to make a decision today, that you need some time to think about it and sit with it. And that's okay to do. They're not going to want to do that, but it's okay to do. And that will help you make decisions that feel good to you so that you have no regrets in this process. You don't
Hmm.
want to have regrets. So one thing that I did that was actually probably the most helpful thing I did was I took my laptop to every appointment and I took notes while the doctor was talking because I knew I wasn't going to remember everything. And then at the end of each of my appointments, I would read back the notes. And that's when it would hit me what my questions were.
Mm.
because you literally don't know what they're saying. It's so crazy that you're
Mm,
supposed to remember all of this. And then when people asked me that I cared about, I could just share my notes with them with the answers.
mm,
And I didn't have to spend so much time repeating everything. So that was like another energy leak that I plugged up right away
yeah.
so that I could just be present with myself. And that's going to be for anybody that's newly diagnosed, that's going to be one of the biggest gifts you can give to yourself is to learn how to protect your energy and what that means for you. Some people might need more people around them. Some people might be more like I needed a lot of solitude. Um, and so find those ways to honor what you need, not what you think other people want you to need.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
stupid. When, yeah, just
Hmm.
be be authentic to what it is.
Yeah. Thank you. Is there anything that you do to celebrate or to honor the journey that you've gone through?
Yeah. So we um I I kept every single hospital bracelet that I ever got, and I kept as much as they could legally allow me to keep of any like tubing and
Mm,
stuff from the hospital. And I burn stuff. I don't burn the tubing, but I have other uses that I've done with it, like different ceremonies that I've brought into it after the fact when I'm just feeling a little disconnected from that journey or whatever. And then with the hospital bracelets, I've made like a garland. And
mm,
so when I need to like honor that process, I'll bring out the garland and it's like a little macabre, but whatever. And it's kind of fun because I still get hospital bracelets every once in a while, so I can add it. And it's just like such a beautiful visual for me of what I went through
hmm.
because it was an initiation for me, right? We have initiations in our life. And that was a huge initiatory process for me. And just always bringing ceremony into everything is so fun.
Mm, hmm. I love that. Eve, is there anything that I've not asked you that I should have or that you'd like to mention before we finish up?
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I don't think so. I think you just when you're diagnosed, um, that's the biggest thing. Let yourself feel.
Mm,
Let yourself
hmm.
feel. And don't worry that it has to be this profound experience all the time. Sometimes, like, a, s- like I had this one lady that would always, it was the weirdest thing to me. It wasn't weird for her. So it's like not a judgment thing, but I would just look at it and roll my eyes. And chemo, anytime like a number would come up on one of her machines, she'd be like, "Oh, that's an angel number or whatever." I'm like, "It literally does that number every time." Like, what do you mean? But it meant something to her, and so I was like, "God, you're being an asshole. Just let her have her thing. Like, what the hell?" And I was probably just having a bad day or something. I don't know, but it was it's the part of don't put any expectations on what this should look like and don't let anybody else put any expectations on you and know that there are so many people that have been through breast cancer, so many people that have been through breast cancer. You're going to survive. Like statistically, you're going to survive. It's going to suck. It's going to suck really bad. It's like that just is what it is. But it's also as equally sucky as it is, it's equally beautiful and transformative if you allow yourself to go into that space. And I would not, this is probably the craziest thing, I would not take that back. I would, yeah, sounds really strange to say, but I would not take my experience with cancer back in a million years.
Eve, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your honest vulnerability and just sharing in the way that you do. I truly, truly appreciate it. And I know that others will too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us in the Hive. We hope you're walking away inspired, energized, and ready to expand, evolve, and grow on your own journey. If this conversation moved you, sparked a new idea, or made you feel more connected, share it with a friend and help us keep the buzz alive. Conscious Michiana is a nonprofit powered by community, and your support helps us keep creating meaningful content, hosting events, and connecting people to the resources they need to thrive. Visit consciousmichiana.org/donate to contribute, because every drop of honey helps. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media. Until next time, be well, Michiana. The Michiana Hivecast, buzzing with wellness, connection, and conscious living in Michiana. Expand, evolve, grow.